What's up, guys? Welcome to the Outer Nexus. Tonight, we will be getting into even more bizarre details surrounding Charlie Kirk's shooter, his alleged shooter. Candace and George Webb have been doing excellent investigative journalism on this entire situation. I think for anybody who's been following this, it's pretty clear now that, it seems like at the very least, Tyler Robinson was not working alone, and likely he wasn't even the shooter. And even more likely, in my opinion, he didn't even know what was going on. So, Candace has been putting out some pretty good videos, and what's weird is the response to these videos Candace has been putting out, where there's been a large group of people who just want her to shut up, stop talking about this, and respect the dead, respect the grieving, or something like that, something along those lines. And I'm sorry. Number one, none of you knew Charlie Kirk or Erika Kirk. We didn't hear about Erika Kirk until like 3 weeks ago, okay? So, and when a high-profile murder case like this happens, especially when it happens like this, you investigate everyone around them. That is how this works. It's not even a question. You can't just, when it's a situation like this, I don't think it's fair to presume innocence. I don't know. Do you think I'm wrong there?
Well, no. I mean, generally the whole thing is
at least to just check into the people around them. Just to check.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just to see.
I mean,
because Erika walks into 12 million. She does a podcast immediately where she's totally fine talking about how she's going to spin out all this content about Charlie. It's just weird. So why don't we just make sure we cover all of our bases? We'll get into Erika later. But I think I'm being fair there in terms of a neutral third party to this, right?
Generally.
Yeah. Okay. So what Candace has been finding out is that Tyler Robinson and George Webb found this out as well. Tyler Robinson was very involved in the ROTC program, and he transferred basically that skill set, or got into a program called the CAI, the Center for Anticipatory Intelligence. And hang on. Yeah, and it's at USU, which is not UVU. USU is in a different spot, but nearby. The Center for Anticipatory Intelligence. And did you hear about the recent bombing at the latest TPUSA event?
No.
It was that. Right. They literally bombed that building at a TPUSA event in a controlled demolition. The police, somehow there was a bomb threat in this building at the Center for Anticipatory Intelligence. It's threatening TPUSA, so they have to do a controlled demolition of it. And now that building is there's obviously something wrong with it now. And not only that, but a number of professors who worked for that program have taken their profiles private. Okay, so that's a different subject all there together. But so what George Webb, his working theory is that Tyler was part of the Center for Anticipatory Intelligence, which is like a feeder program. It's a pipeline for people in their early 20s to get into intelligence agencies. Anticipatory intelligence is a burgeoning field of intelligence in understanding full spectrum how things might happen. So it's like a really important field. And Tyler was basically top of his class. Not only was Tyler almost top of his class, he was leading his own CAI team in just different projects and stuff of what they did in the program. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well,
they have a statement there.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Look at that. Oh, they do have a statement online. Yeah, here we go. Due to an unfounded misinformation circulating online, USCU is offering the following statement. Tyler Robinson attended the Logan campus briefly for one semester in fall 2021. He was a pre-engineering major and took classes consistent with that major, after which he took a leave of absence. He was not involved with the Center of Anticipatory Intelligence, nor did he have contact with CAI faculty, did not attend any CAI activities. The Center for Anticipatory Intelligence is a strictly academic classroom-based program. Obviously, that's what they're going to put out. Okay. because they got to cover all their bases. That's fine. Whatever. That's always going to be their statement when it comes to stuff like this. So basically, George Webb postulates that he may have been operating with this team in some sort of covert way. Maybe he didn't understand the full scope of the things that he was doing in this group, obviously on Discord with these individuals. So how this all intersects with what Candace is saying is basically what Candace has found through her investigative journalism. Initially, she was able to get in contact with this young man who allegedly worked with or knew a former political candidate called Bill Lyman in Utah. And apparently the Lyman family is large in that area. The initial footage of Tyler walking on the street came from Bill Lyman's aunt's garage cam. And initially,
Bill or Phil?
Phil, I think it might be Phil Lyman. Either way, Mr. Lyman. Candace will clarify. So basically, after this young man contacted Candace, he told Candace that he, was basically Lyman's employee. And then Lyman found out that he was working with Candace. Lyman wanted to also work with Candace and was kind of helping her out with a few things in the investigation. And then he got really weird about some stuff. So I have a series of clips that we're going to sit through and watch what Candace and George Webb have found. And I think this is really fascinating and answers a couple questions. Well, maybe it opens the door to more questions. So let's just check this out here.
I begin actually searching through our tips box for anything related to Phil Lyman. Maybe somebody else noticed something or knew something or he said something. And lo and behold, very early on, someone just messaged us and said, hey, you should probably ask more questions about Phil Lyman, because every time I look into this investigation locally, him and his family members are popping up. And then that person tells me that his nephew had sort of done this public tour, Phil Lyman's nephew did this public tour saying that he was going to walk the same route that the shooter walked near his grandmother's house, and that they found, you guys remember this, they found the Converse footprint nearby his grandma's house. And he presented a map, this is it. This is actually from his Instagram. He presents this map, and his nephew's name is Shane. And this was all public. I'm only looking at things publicly. And let's just look at some of these posts from nephew Shane. I mean, first and foremost, he's with his friends. Said, I took my friends to my grandma's house tonight, and we retraced his steps, and we took pictures in the exact place that the security cameras caught him. I've been through this new experience for the last few days. I'm still very glad to have attended and to support Charlie Kirk and to see him. The last pic shows Converse brand footprints. And then he does hashtags, and here are him and the three friends. And by the way, I'm looking at the front on the right, and I'm like,
same cheekbones.
I don't know. I'd like to know who that is at the very least. And I'd like to know who everybody in this photo is. This is just interesting. You guys are in the staircase and posting side-by-sides. They put these side-by-side photos of them in the staircase. And I just was like, I need to just know more about you. And I need to know more about these two individuals who I couldn't find on his friends list. And they certainly hadn't liked the photo, or else I would have messaged them directly to figure out who they are. And yeah, I found that very strange. And so I messaged Nick and I asked him whether or not he had ever received any images or videos from Phil directly. At the very least, we can see his line of vision so I can figure out where exactly he was when the shots ran out. And I'm wondering if we can maybe get some footage that we didn't have before when the shots ran out. And also, by the way, metadata is king. That's kind of been it's good to see, because then I can put it in my timeline. That's why I love metadata. I can say this exactly happened at this time. Strangely, Phil kind of freaks out. He doesn't want to share those photos with Nick. And he asks him explicitly, whose side are you on? Whose side are you on? I thought we were all on the same side. We're all trying to catch Charlie Kirk's killer one way or the other. You inserted yourself into this, got on the phone with me. I was not even trying to make any communication with you. I literally am just asking questions. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, you don't want to answer any questions. You don't want to share anything. And he tells me that yesterday, Phil Lyman just calls him and he shouts at him. Like, who the F do you think you are, kind of a deal? You know what I mean? Like, who are you to ask me for anything? I already gave my photos to Taylor Hansen. And so at that point, I was like, look, you've been great, Nick, but I don't want you being shouted at. I don't want you feeling comfortable in your own home. I would like you to just remove yourself entirely from the boots on the ground elements of this investigation. I don't think Phil is acting in a way that I perceive to be stable, given the fact that, again, he inserted himself in this investigation and we're asking, this is my car on the street. Okay, you want to be helpful. We're asking you to be helpful. And now all of a sudden you're showing up at a 20-year-old's house and you're being weird. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And I said I could reach out to Phil directly by myself. And I did. I reached out to both Phil and I reached out to his nephew, Shane. And I asked for them to identify the guys in that photo. Like I said, I was interested in who those individuals were because I couldn't find it on his friend list. And in response, Shane immediately takes his profile private. And Phil Lyman, leaves me on red. So I am now left in the predicament where I need to just ask the public, if you are one of those two kids that are in the photos there, I would love to ask you some questions since you publicized this tour. I mean, they even did the full video walking through where he walked. And, you know, he said, my uncle, he posted Phil Lyman. So my uncle was with Charlie. This is the video that they posted. Everything was done publicly. And now I'm like, okay, you could maybe you have something that's helpful. I want to ask you about, could you send me that photo? Could you send me that video? Could you send me all of this stuff? And now I'm getting radio silence. So unfortunately, because I need to figure out what happened on that day, I'm turning to the public to try to identify those people and anything else that you may know that may help put things together for us. Again, please reserve the tips at Candace.
Okay, so there's that one. And then the next day, does a follow-up. We're going to immediately show that.
I wanted to get to the bottom, as I said earlier, of who that second person was in the photo with his nephew, cousin, whatever you want to call him. And we got just one hit. And it was, honestly, it was from Belfast, North Ireland, no less. Somebody sent us an email and he said, look, I conducted an interview, an internet-wide search of the person's face, and I only got one hit using technology, and the hit was in Provo, Utah. And he wrote to me that it was quite a coincidence because not only is the person in Provo for this one hit for this face, but also he's featured on a website pertaining to bees. And he's like, didn't you just do a thing saying that you had this weird thing about bees and you thought there was something else going on? And my goodness, you guys.
I'll just add, so Phil Lyman, he actually apparently had video right after the shooting. He goes out to the balcony and looks down to where Charlie would have been. And he tells Candace that he sees two goth girls next to him, standing next to him. But in the video, these are just normal girls with black shirts. They're not goth at all. They're just wearing black shirt. They have blue jeans. You know what I mean? So I'll let her continue.
I almost jumped when I learned that website he was referring to, Buzzard and Bees, is a gothic underground in Provo. Okay. So this is the website. It's a gothic underground of all things in Provo, the website Buzzard and Bees. And they're speaking about a gothic prom. That is where that person's face comes up, except he's wearing makeup to make him, well, look a little more gothic. Take a look at this. I'm going to show you the side by side of this individual. And I am certain Can't say 100%, okay, because we need to find this person's name, but this is a match, okay? The ears, the chin, just everything about this individual is a match. But he is as of yet identified as a unidentified, as a Gothic person, and he is also as of yet unidentified as the close friend of Shayna Broderick, who cannot be found anywhere else, or people are not familiar with this person. So I'm thinking maybe he also came from overseas. Now, quickly regarding our question pertaining to Mike Mitchell, right? I was saying that it was pretty odd and obvious that they were trying to protect this detective, Mike Mitchell. We also learned that he's a Boy Scout leader in the LDS church, but usually if you have a law.
All right. She does go into Mike Mitchell. She explains that this Mike Mitchell person was the one who convinced Tyler's family to turn him over to the police. Mike Mitchell also, his career in the police department was an online pedophile hunter. So, dealing with online things, and also in the previous video, which I kind of skipped over, is that other person in the picture was confirmed to be an Austrian student visiting America. For some reason, he's an Austrian person. Don't know why he's here. This is the final video with Candace that she just put out today. And here we go.
Okay, now we turn our attention back to the mysterious individual that is next to Shayna, right? We discovered that one person was from Austria. And then we're going, who's this goth kid that Phil has been clear he does not know him. Phil Lyman does not know this individual. Could I help identify him? I told you it was unusual that our inbox wasn't instantly flooded with people telling us exactly who it was. Well, then we did get another hit on him. And a handful of you similarly found the same person that we did, a person going by the name Robbie Hild, who was allegedly from Washington. Now, let me tell you why I don't think this is his true identity, okay? Because if this was just some kid who grew up in Washington, went to school in Utah, my inbox would be flooded with that name, and it's not, okay? It's simply not. Oddly, no one has come forward to claim that they know Robbie Hild. They're all just saying, I got a hit. This might be him. No one is saying they went to school with him. This is a young college student. He's allegedly, like I said, from Washington State. And no one personally can say, I know this person. How could that be? How could that be? I'm going to tell you something. So I'm starting to get a hunch about things, and we're going to go more deeply into this tomorrow. But many of you guys have been sending those clues about the Azov battalion, about Ukrainian, Russian people that were coming into Utah. There seems to be some organized movement, people that are being given new identities. Actually, one person wrote us and told us that UVU in and of itself as a campus has an unbelievable amount of dedication. I mean, even the president, I'm blanking on her name, it like majored in Soviet studies. Like they have a direct pipeline from Russia to America. It's very interesting. And yes, it is true. It is a fact that Tyler Robinson, we can't confirm that this is Mike Mitchell, but there are old photos of Tyler Robinson when he's a lot younger visiting his uncle Mikey. Okay. His uncle Mikey, who is working with the Ukrainian Azov battalion. Okay. He's a military man. And that gets really interesting when I start to combine all of the aspects of this case. And again, we are still in theory territory, but I feel like we are I'm starting to get a stronger than a theory and more of a hunch that this was a military operation, and people that executed this are actually from overseas. And when you look at the aspects of the UVU case and their strong ties to that region, things get really interesting. When you look at UVU campus and their strong ties to the CIA, things start to get really interesting, right? And I think this is a path that needs to be pursued, that these people have different identities and that they are perhaps all from overseas. And it turns out that there have been The New York Times has reported on Russian-Ukrainian spies that are building new lives from themselves with new IDs in America, in Brazil. Essentially, what we're talking about are terrorist cells. I believe that. I believe that with the Ukrainian war, okay? And they always hack us emotionally. Oh, we need to have open borders. It allows them to get in people that are perhaps completely insane and deranged, and they are, in fact, raising little militants, and they're executing these programs. And let me tell you, if this is correct, if this is sort of like a neo-Bolshevik militant tribe, then we need to be concerned. And spiritually, I can tell you how I feel spiritually. That feels right to me. I've been pleading with you guys to get your kids out of these schools. I am telling you.
So then she goes on a thing about taking kids out of schools. Now all of that, I wanted to line all of those videos up so you can see clearly the line of logic that she's trying to pursue. And all of this, you know, it's all very speculative, but in my opinion, I don't think it's unfounded, but so let's get into the next video that George Webb dropped while she was doing her live stream. I'm not sure if she's aware of this, but this is where things get pretty wild in my opinion. So George Webb is an investigative journalist. He is out there right now just going over the grounds, trying to figure out like all the little details. Right now, this is a video about the drop site of the rifle itself, the backyard that it was dropped in, and the owners of these properties. So let's go over this.
In advance. So now I said that there was, you remember at the end of this little path here, I'd said that there's the burning bush. The burning bush is where I would do the gun drops. That's where I would do the gun drop. Again, we're saying Tyler is sort of the team coach here. He's laying out the gun. He's laying out the gun.
So George Webb's theory and all of this, and this is I'm following him on this, is that Tyler just simply thought he was doing some sort of minor operation with his CAI team, his former CAI team, perhaps. And he was doing some kind of operation over Discord. Maybe his task was simply to bring his rifle to that one spot and then just chill at Dairy Queen. That may have been his only task, and he was not aware of any of the other things that were happening that day.
For somebody on the team, it's the guy in the black shirt, but it's not Tyler in the wine maroon color shirt. But then you can see the house. It's the ROTC house, a big house, right? Perfect place, perfect construction cover, right, for doing stuff. And we're going to come up on 683 here. The 683 house, which has got an interesting history. The 683 house is called the Russia house. If we're calling it Russia house, 683 house is owned by a capital partners company called 683 Capital Partners. Now, the interesting thing, this is a big house here, this one, the ROTC one. But the interesting thing about 683, which is the house next door, this is where they say they find the gun in the backyard here. You heard the chicken coop story. You saw Ian Carroll take the chicken coop story. But the interesting thing about the Russia house here is that they're one of the few companies in the world allowed to trade in sanctioned securities from Russia. Basically, if you trade in sanctioned assets, then you basically go to jail from the State Department. So this house, 683 Partners, is one of the few companies where you're allowed to trade in those foreign debt, basically, for Russia. And a lot of the foreign debt is needed to do things like mining, right? When you want to do mining, and I'll back out here a little bit, when you want to do mining or for things like uranium, because let's say you need uranium for a AI data center, let's say, you got to trade with Russia. You got to have an exception. You got to be able to trade in bonds. You got to have some kind of an ability to trade. I'll walk back here a little bit. And so Putin this spring opens up this trade channel with this 683 Partners. Now, that's just interesting that the gun gets dropped at 683 Partners and not the ROTC building next door. But one of these two is where I would practice for about a week to get to know that roof. But the interesting thing about 683 Partners here is this story that Phil Lyman gets involved in this. Phil Lyman's great-grandfather owned all this land. Phil Lyman's great-grandfather owned all this land. And Phil Lyman is the state representative for, well, it's the uranium. It's Uranium One. It's the Uranium One holdings that Phil is involved in. Phil from Blanding, Utah, is the representative that wanted to mine what they call Big Ears. They call him Big Ears Lyman for a very good reason, because he wanted to have a waiver to mine uranium there against the national park ban, and the Biden administration allowed it. And also that mine then feeds this White Mesa mill, the largest uranium mill in America. So this is Q level clearance stuff. This is national security stuff. This is stuff the president needs to sign off on. Well, buenos dias, okay, or hello, whatever it may be. And so this is stuff that the president needs to sign off on, and for trading with the Russians. And again, you have a trade, you have a financial instrument that you can use. Now you can finance Russia. And the interesting thing about Big Ears and milling is you need new uranium, low-grade uranium, as feedstock to blend down or down blend highly enriched uranium that might be coming from a missile. You may remember we covered a topic called megatons to megawatts. Anything having to do with the Department of Energy and uranium immediately goes to the highest level of clearance in our government. Immediately goes to the highest level of clearance in our government. It's called Q-level clearance. There is no higher level. So even though you drop a gun at 683, if 683 Partners is involved in any kind of uranium deal with the Russian government, guess what? It's top secret. It's beyond top secret. It's classified Q-level clearance. The State Department is the one that moves uranium. So any movement of uranium is classified as Q-level clearance. So that's another way to get at Q-level clearance. But here you can see 683 Partners is the place right next to the ROTC thing that's being worked on. 683 Partners is the Russia House, is the place where the gun is found supposedly, between one of these two locations, between one of those two locations.
Okay, so that's pretty wild. That's pretty, insane, actually. So there's that, and I'm gonna pull up this other one from a podcast called Niko House. He goes over Erika Kirk, and some very weird stuff here. Let me see here.
If my wife passed away, y'all wouldn't see me for a while. I'm not gonna lie to you. I would be crushed. I would be devastated. Thinking about the idea of her passing away is making me consider crying right now. And and if she had a business or something like that to take over, that probably wouldn't be a discussion that I'd be having within the first week or two of her dying.
And when my dad died, my mom took 3 months of hardcore grieving. I couldn't even talk to her about anything. I couldn't even really interact with her for 3 months. Yeah.
I damn sure know that. I'm not planning the future of my wife's company a week after she died. That's not a discussion I'm having. But, Erika doesn't seem to have a problem with it. So
we have Sunday specials lined up to the brim because my husband was so intentional about making sure that there was enough content. Always.
He made sure we recorded everything.
Everything.
He would not do a speech unless we could get the video and the
100%. So we have speeches that no one's heard of. We have interviews that no one's heard of. We have stuff from Korea and Japan that no one's heard of.
Podcasts.
So, in the words of my husband, buckle up, because there is a lot of content to be had. And we have so many amazing things down the pipeline that we are working on currently that will
unveil in due time.
I am so excited. And so,
by the way, those are things Charlie himself
that he wanted.
We were working on some big things.
Yeah,
She looks so happy.
she's so excited. So excited. I'm not sitting on camera on my my dead husband, my dead wife's show, and talking about the future of the company that I'm now the CEO of. That, once again, that shouldn't even be a discussion that you're willing to have at that moment. I understand the company has to move on eventually, right? There is a such thing as an interim CEO. And I'm sure that 100% Charlie had prepped somebody to take over duties if something were to happen to him. Like, I'm not even talking about like if he was assassinated, like if he was hospitalized, for example. Like, I'm sure that there was someone who could have sat in the interim while you were going through your grieving process. Yeah. And instead of the grieving process that we were expecting, she's talking about how excited she is to move on and use her husband's brand to do so, which is like, oh yeah, we about to milk his ass. His body went warm to cold. We're gonna milk it until it's warm again. Okay. Like, I mean, even his quote unquote colleagues, his friends.
You know, right up until the end, and you know, we've talked about that a lot. Like a lot of the guiding vision that we're using right now to kind of steady the ship and figure out where we're going is the things Charlie himself 100%. Told us where we were going.
100%. And similar with Turning Point USA, Charlie had a plan moving past 2030 that he's shared with the team and has implemented. So we're not going anywhere.
We have the blueprints.
We have the blueprints. We have our marching orders, and we are just remaining humble and grateful to God, and we're remaining just stewards to what God has blessed us with. And I know Charlie's going to continue to guide us, and the Lord will continue to guide us. And I just wanted to let everyone know that this is far beyond it.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird. Like, maybe if she hadn't done any interviews, maybe if she hadn't talked to anybody since the memorial service, like maybe if she stayed out of the spotlight, then we probably wouldn't be paying that much attention to her. And how weird it is that she's excited about the prospects of moving on with her husband's company, who was just assassinated in front of the entire world. It's bizarre. Like, I don't know what you keep talking. You know, God's guiding us, and you saying guy? I think it might be the other guy. Cause ain't no way, bruh. I'm not even sure it makes you qualified to be CEO of this company. Okay, because Turning Point USA, ladies and gentlemen, is a political organization. It's a political nonprofit organization worth hundreds of, probably way more than that now, right? Because they got the little Israeli stooge in. It's probably worth way more than that now. But let's go with a light $100 million plus organization. What in the hell makes Erika Kirk qualified to run a political organization with zero political experience? That's not how political organizations work. There is a pecking order, ladies and gentlemen. There's a pecking order. If you've ever worked within a political organization, if you've worked in politics before, if you've engaged in activism or any type of organization, you know that isn't. You don't just be like, hey man, hey, like, she the one. I know that she has zero experience with any of this, but we're going to leave hundreds of millions of dollars worth of resources and assets in the hands of this woman who is famous for being Miss Arizona and working as Trump's talent director. What? And all of a sudden now, Time Magazine has named her top 100 up and coming influential persons in the world. For what? I have not been inspired by a damn thing that she said. There's people talking about vice presidential material. What?
That's pretty crazy.
So, really quick, for those of you who may not have seen the hotspot from yesterday, I'm going to play that video because it is important for everyone to see that video, especially after what I'm about to tell you right after that video. Because when you start hearing things thrown around like vice president, when you start hearing things like Time Magazine, top influential, up and coming influential people in the world, when you start hearing $100 million companies are getting thrown into the hands of widows for the simple fact that she's a widow and nothing else, when you start hearing things like DOD, DHS, Iron Dome, etc., now we got to start digging. And that's what I did. And I saw there are people who have been digging here, been digging there, and there have been a lot of questions, really. There was like, I remember, guys, I don't know if y'all recall, like my first video, I was like, yo, we don't really know who her father is. And that is a fact. Like, bro, they were not, if you went to Wikipedia, they were like, yo, her father was not involved in her life. Yeah, turns out that's bullshit. Or her mom was just like single mom, just kind of like dabbling in some businesses. And yeah, that was bullshit. Oh, the reason she moved to Arizona was because of the divorce. That's bullshit. I mean, like, there are so many aspects of her life that were just made up lies that came out of her mouth. And no one is asking for clarification. And so when you put all the facts that we know together, plus the facts that we don't know, not because, because we don't want to know, but it's because like she's just avoiding talking about them. Like they're not important. Like it was time to start digging, ask some questions. And that's exactly what I did. So really quick, we're going to watch this hotspot video and y'all stick with me. If you haven't seen it, you in for a doozy. And I appreciate everybody watching. Man, it on YouTube right now, that damn video is going crazy. I did not think that many people were all that concerned about Erika Kirk, but I guess that everybody was kind of like, yeah, that video I posted last night, 146,000 views right now, guys. That video was going crazy. The first one I posted, let me see. The first one, 162,000. I'm her story to be suspect, so I appreciate y'all validating that I'm not freaking crazy, because when you start to focus too much on something and you like become really, really bothered by something, especially what we do, like you begin to question, like, yo, am I being obsessive? Am I the one crazy, or is it really them? Is it really her? Yeah, did the digging. It's her. So let me go ahead and put this up for y'all. Stay with me. It's a little bit longer, but once again, it's worth it. And then when I tell y'all the what I found out after this video, yeah, you're gonna be like, oh hell no.
Y'all, this Erika Kirk Israeli honeypot story just got way more sinister. After I started doing some more digging, I had to do a follow-up. But before we get into it, make sure you like this video, make sure you share this video, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you follow. So we're going to double back and talk about Erika Kirk's parents. There have been two consistent narratives put out there about her parents. One, we don't really know who her dad was, at least we didn't. And two, her mother raised her all by herself. Oh, and probably the most important one, her parents were divorced, and that's the reason why she supposedly moved to Scottsdale, Arizona from Ohio. Now, the reason that everyone thought that this was true was because of words that came out of Erika's mouth, because the media in many publications also pushed this narrative and went along with it without questioning Erika or her family. Erika's parents are named Lori and Kent Fronsfield. It is true that Erika's parents are divorced. It is also true that Erika and her mom Lori did move to Scottsdale, Arizona. But what is not true is that Lori and Erika moved to Scottsdale, Arizona because of the divorce. You see, by Erika's own words, her mom moved to Arizona not because of the divorce, but because of a business opportunity. Because of her past history with the DHS, it would be easier starting a business while working with the DHS in a place where she had connections.
How did your mom choose Phoenix?
So she chose to move to Phoenix from Ohio because there was more of an opportunity for a female business owner out here. Especially from the standpoint of she was getting involved with the government, so Homeland Security and Department of Defense. And so she had other business partners that were out here that were already in that industry, even one that was a mentor of hers. So it was really convenient to be able to come all together in one place to really have that.
Now, once again, Erika mentions her mother over and over and over again. The media says that she was raised by her mother alone, and they effectively pretend like Kent had nothing to do with Erika's life in her upbringing. And although many people keep trying to connect AZ Tech International and their business with Israel to Kent Fronsky, it turns out it was Lori that started the business. And Kent, the father who supposedly wasn't involved in the mother's life nor Erika's life, their entire life post-divorce, was associated with the company as the program research director. And that company was started in 2003. And it's based in Scottsdale, Arizona. And once again, although the majority of Erika's life, she pretended like her dad had nothing to do with her life, she admits here that her dad moved to Arizona supposedly because he had some family there, and therefore her and her mom weren't as alone and without family as people might have thought. She admits her dad was part of her life after pretending he wasn't her entire career.
But my father ended up moving out here as well because my grandparents had a home out in Sun City. And so it took a little bit to get everyone out here. It took several years, but by that time, everyone was out here. So we had a little bit more family than just us.
And yeah, to make a long story short, Kent is Jewish and did have some Israeli ties. But what's probably more important is that everybody thought that AZ Tech was Kent's baby. But in actuality, it was Lori's. Lori then created a subsidiary of AZ Tech called GTEK Industries, a security firm in which they work with the DOD, the NHS, and the intelligence community. And yes, people, your suspicions were correct. E3 Tech and AZ Tech was involved with the Iron Dome project via Raytheon. Oh, and multiple projects across the Department of Defense, the intelligence community, and the Department of Homeland Security, which is probably just as important, if not more important. Flashback. Remember in the first video how I was like, it's super weird how Erika Kirk was able to work with the U.S. military in Romania, of all places, to start the Romanian Angels Adoption Service nonprofit organization. Starting to make a little bit more sense now. But speaking of the Romanian Angels in Erika Kirk, did you guys ever wonder how she became Miss Arizona? Well, despite never competing in a beauty pageant in her life, she woke up one day, received a letter in the mail, and was invited to compete in the competition and decided it was a good way to expand her evangelism and do the Lord's work. Now, any beauty pageant contestant can tell you, it's hard as shit to win a beauty pageant, even if you've been on the circuit your entire life, which most of these beauty queens have been. But Erika won on her first go. Wow, that's impressive and really coincidental. And then she did try to become Miss USA. She didn't place, but she got an opportunity that's worth more than any pageantry sash. You see, at the same time she was involved in this pageantry, and at the same time she was running a nonprofit organization in Romania, she was also a talent director for Miss USA, which at the time was owned by none other than Donald J. Trump. You cannot make this up. So while Erika was a talent director for Donald Trump, of all people, she was simultaneously somehow able to run a nonprofit organization in Romania, adopting little kids to random people. And allegedly those kids were being shipped off to like Israel, the UK, and other places. Now, that wouldn't be suspect in and of itself, but we can't necessarily accuse her of being directly involved. But there is that pesky little detail about the fact that she got help from soldiers that were working on a NATO base in Romania. And that NATO base just so happened to have a child brothel. And there's that pesky little fact that we don't actually know how involved the military was, because they decided to not document anything involving their involvement with that nonprofit organization. And if you know anything about the military or have served in the military, you know not documenting literally anything that any soldier does is a big ass no-no. But somehow she was able to get away with it. And yeah, Erika's mom all of a sudden decided she wanted nothing to do with this organization and tried to pretend like she had nothing to do with it. And I can see why, if you were recruiting soldiers from a military base that had a child brothel on it, and your nonprofit organization was right down the street. But like I said in my last video, it was a point of emphasis for Lori to brag about her co-founding this organization with Erika, which would make sense because Erika was basically a kid, a young adult when this nonprofit in another country was founded. Oh, well, there's that in the fact that in the promotional video for the nonprofit, Lori's voice is literally the narrator. So there's that.
I believe that we all have angels in our lives, and these are my little angels from Antonio Placement Center in Constanța, Romania. Our goal with the Romanian Angels Project was to show these children the true American heart during the holiday season. And what better way to do that than having our United States military personally deliver the gifts?
So given all the information I just told you, do you think it makes more sense that Erika just so happened to meet Charlie Kirk in Israel because her and her mom were on a pilgrimage? Or was her mom there on a work trip and they just so happened to meet Charlie Kirk? And given that Erika Kirk worked directly for Donald Trump, and Charlie Kirk's father was actually one of the main architects that designed Trump Tower, do y'all really believe that job interview turned date turned marriage was a coincidence? Well, in Erika Kirk's own words, nothing is a coincidence.
But nothing is by coincidence.
Now, given all this information, that probably explains why Erika Kirk has been acting weird as shit for a supposed widow. Didn't say a word when J.D. Vance pulled up on Air Force Two and removed Charlie Kirk's body before an autopsy could be done, despite that being totally contrary to how Utah handles homicides.
He did not go in for an autopsy. The death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital.
Has said absolutely nothing about the new footage and the new footage and more new footage and information proving that Tyler Robinson probably not only isn't guilty, but there was probably either more than one shooter and other devices involved in the murder of her husband.
So I'll cut it there. That was a lot that we went over, and I felt it was important to link those particular videos together so that we all have an understanding of this kind of narrative. Personally, from everything that I've seen, everything that I've researched, this looks like a military operation to me. It looks like a spillover civil war from either Ukraine or maybe even Israel. It could be, or both of those countries could be working together. I think what happened is that dude, Robert Hild, which is probably not his real name, was probably a Ukrainian mercenary that they got to come over here and pose as Tyler. I think they got him to go across that camera one time, change clothes, come back and go across again. And that's what I think happened. And now they're going to pin all this shit on Tyler Robinson, and they need this shit to go away. That's my angle right now. What do you take in? How do you interpret all this?
I mean, there are some strange coincidences, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
one of I mean, you can always play devil's advocate,
Yeah.
which is generally
It's just all a coincidence, you know.
yeah the side that I end up on.
Mhm.
And I have seen and dealt with people from a heavy religious background.
Mhm.
I've worked in different mental hospitals, and I have seen very quick turnarounds from
Grieving widows. Right.
of both genders, both
Yeah.
sides.
It does happen.
And it's more common
Mhm.
when you're heavily religious.
Okay.
Because it's more of
like a relief, like they're in a better place.
They're in a better place.
Yeah.
They're not real. Like yes, they're gone.
Mhm.
I won't be seeing them anymore.
Mhm.
But I know that they're in a better
Yeah.
place, and I'll be there at some point.
And I'm kind of doing the thing that he wanted me to do.
Yeah.
It could
It
simply
could
be
be.
that.
Yeah.
It could be that. She could just be a good little Christian.
Yeah.
You know?
However,
those are incredible amount of coincidences in terms of national security, intelligence, directly connected to the Iron Dome.
yeah. However, when you start connecting a lot of the things together, it does look suspicious. I would say suspicious enough that
You got to investigate a little
you have
bit.
to investigate.
Like that's all that I'm trying to get out of this. Candace, George Webb, all of these people could be totally wrong. The FBI could have all of the evidence that reveals all of the truth, and Tyler Robinson could have been the exact dude that did all of this. But with this amount of coincidences, you must be compelled to at least look into these things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you have to consider this as a possibility because it's unignorable, you know?
Yeah. I mean, even from someone playing a devil's advocate, it's a hard amount of things to be like, because if you were to play one off, you're like, all right,
it's just one off, you know?
Two, it's like, fine.
Yeah. But 10 things?
But 3+, you're starting to be like, all right, fine, I'm going to look into it and I'll get back to you.
You have to look into it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just, like, and that's the thing behind this whole thing. Like, my whole thing behind this is I don't want them to pin this horrible crime on an innocent person and then use that person's death as a rallying cry for essentially civil war. You know what I mean? For essentially civil conflict.
Yeah.
Essentially trying to rile your citizens up to fight each other over this. Because that's not what this has to be. And the fact is, all of these right-wingers want to rush to pin this on Tyler Robinson and kill him so that they can just get it done with and get it just get it done with. Just get this leftist set. But the fact is, if you can't prove that he shot Charlie Kirk, then it all falls apart. It doesn't matter. You know, you've concocted something in your mind that you've been told. You've been told a story, you know, and through emotion, you've latched on, you know, and that's what it feels like.
Yes. However, I will say again, and this is not in a good sense, but it is the sense.
Yeah.
Is we're at a point the option, because everything that we say that you just pointed out came into light in a way that it's like, there's some legitimacy here.
Yeah.
And we push down that road and they're like, it's opening up a little bit. Now we would be in a spot where no, this is all going away right now. Because what I mean by that is, like, don't get me wrong, people would have looked down this and been like, something happened.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is no way the U.S. government will own up to any of this.
So this is my major concern, is that this just joins the UFO phenomenon and pedophilia as well, where the reality of the situation is too heavy for people to even want to consider. When the implication here is that, in my opinion, a foreign government hired mercenaries to do a military operation and assassinate Charlie Kirk, and there's a good chance that it was sanctioned by our government. Our government helped facilitate it in certain ways by covering things up. If that's true, that's going to be a very hard reality for a lot of Americans to drink Like it's not like I don't even want to drink that. I don't even want to think about it. Like I don't even want to think, because what does that mean?
Well, that's what I meant.
Do we start getting armed and not paying our taxes? Like what does that mean?
Well, yeah, and that's kind of the thing, is like, even if that Kool-Aid was on the table,
yeah,
you know, and it's like, yeah, we've kind of legitimized that Kool-Aid too. It's legit.
Yeah,
you know, it's who's
gonna drink?
Who's drinking? Who's taking the swig?
Who? Yeah, and that's the thing, but. That's the heaviest part of all this. Is the reality is that we may be facing collateral spillover conflict from some sort of foreign civil war.
And it's possible, because as much as we have our hands in all of the other governments, and
Netanyahu was on camera.
There's no denying that. You know, we've had different, you know, whistleblowers over being like, we've been eyeballing our allies as well as our, you know, enemies, you know, keeping an eye on everybody.
Yeah.
You know, the whole world does that to the United States.
Yes.
You know, and nearly in equal measure, sometimes even greater than equal measure.
Yes.
You know, so it's not surprising to hear occasionally that something, not like this, but something came up where it's like a foreign government was involved.
Yeah.
You know, so I wouldn't find it surprising to say that there was a foreign government involved.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you have that, even if the U.S. wasn't involved, and I'm not saying they were or were not, they could not allow that. Even if Donald Trump was like, you are not going to do this, and then it happened.
Yeah.
He couldn't still come out and be like, they did it.
Yeah, no, and that's and that's what we're seeing with the Epstein files, and that I feel like it leads into this broader subject so we experienced that with the Epstein files. That's exactly what happened with the Epstein files. It's just like, it's essentially come out that very likely Epstein was CIA working with Mossad, or Mossad CIA. He was working within those agencies, and he was providing blackmail on high-level people for our government to manipulate. And he was some kind of informant, and that information cannot be released under any circumstances at all. But obviously it should. It absolutely should, because it delegitimizes our government by not doing it. And this is simply another one. This is simply and in my opinion, Pete Hegseth's speech is it's not the same thing as the subject, but it's like right in line with a government that's kind of collapsing and needs to have a tyrannical grasp to get things under control again. And I wouldn't even be surprised if it came out that they basically killed off Charlie Kirk to do this rallying cry to consolidate our military essentially against American civilians. And it's disturbing. It's disturbing what's happening right now, and all these weird revelations. And it feels like, I don't know, it feels like there's a real shift in the air. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
It's just you.
It's just me.
Yeah, no.
That's it.
No. I mean, if we're going to switch over to Pete Hegseth's speech, there is a lot of implication to that speech. Some of the broader aspects of it, you could say, tie in to some degree. It's an important one to hit.
It just seems like all of the core right wing fundamentalists and evangelicals are all really trying to push, like, we have to crush the left. And it's like, you know, they're talking about rolling troops out in major cities.
Yes.
It's like, oh my God. That's, you know, man, that it's looking bleak.
It's looking bleak.
Now, basically, how I just want to wrap this up is it just feels like there is a strong push for an authoritarian power grab.
Yes.
That's what it feels like.
Even I would say that.
Yeah.
And I would tie the Hegseth speech into that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's where we're going to end that for now. But, yeah. See you guys later.